Hi, I'm Carrie Santos, and I'm the first woman CEO of Entrepreneurs Organization. We are a network of 15,000 proven entrepreneurs around the world whose businesses each earn more than $1 million in annual revenue. Women are founding businesses more than ever due to a desire to be their own boss and control their own work conditions. We see women are starting up businesses globally at higher and higher rates, almost the same as men. But where we see the biggest gap is in growing and scaling a business, which is what Entrepreneurs Organization focuses on. Entrepreneurs can reach a real limit in expanding their businesses with only 24 hours in a day. So EO members learn how to identify their strengths and hire and delegate to teams so they can free up their time and focus on strategic growth. We are a nonprofit with an inexpensive volunteer model that focuses on peer mentoring and peer support, which we have been able to scale in more than 60 countries. We emphasize not just cash flow or sales pitches, but also mental health by building a community of support to be able to learn from the failures that are an inevitable part of any entrepreneur's journey. To further help women entrepreneurs, last year, Entrepreneurs Organization started a partnership with We Connect International, whose CEO, Elizabeth Vasquez, addressed this conference yesterday. Through this partnership, women business owners are able to connect and learn from each other and leverage each community to access networks that can help them grow. The experience of being an entrepreneur can be profoundly lonely, especially when you have trouble making payroll or you may have to consider mortgaging your house. Entrepreneurs Organization gives small business owners that community they need to make difficult decisions, to learn from their mistakes, and to focus on their strengths. I have the great pleasure of introducing to you our next four speakers who will deliver TED-style talks on the entrepreneurial ecosystem from four unique points of view. First, Wendy Telecki is head of the Secretariat of the Women Entrepreneurs Finance Initiative, WeFi, which is housed in the World Bank Group. WeFi raised $300 million in government contributions, which it used to mobilize $3 billion in public-private sector funding and supported 130,000 women-owned businesses around the world. Jenny Abramson is the founder and managing partner of Rethink Impact, the largest US-based venture capital firm investing in female and non-binary leaders, using tech to solve the world's biggest problems. Anurati Mathur is the founder and CEO of Sempre Health. She created a unique win-win-win model to lower the cost of medicine while benefiting pharmaceutical companies, health insurance companies, and patients. And Teresa Ward-Malpin oversees digital and customer experience strategy and execution across Comcast Business, where she serves as the executive sponsor of the Diversity and Inclusion Committee. She led the launch of Comcast Rise, a program to support minority-owned small and medium businesses through the COVID pandemic. You're going to enjoy this. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie, and thank you to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and our partners at the Office of Global Women's Issues at the Department of State. I'm really delighted to be here today at such an important time for this conversation about women's economic empowerment and entrepreneurship. The world faces critical development challenges at every turn. There's war and migration now, like we've never seen before, climate, disasters happening and accelerating, and the pandemic, which has also unveiled a lot of the challenges we have with education and care. And with so much going on in the world, I wanted to talk about why we should be supporting women entrepreneurs in developing countries. Why should that be a priority for us when we have so many things on our minds to be concerned about? And I wanted to share a story that I think illustrates why women entrepreneurs are so important. And I think this story is timely considering the events of the last couple of weeks. In early 1991, I moved to the Soviet Republic of Ukraine, hoping to support the burgeoning democratic women's movement in the Soviet Union. And I found myself in the little known Western Ukrainian town of Lviv at a really extraordinary time. While I was there, the Soviet Union collapsed and the Ukrainian people in both the east and the west of Ukraine overwhelmingly voted to become independent. The years I was there was really exuberant time for the new Ukrainian nation, but it was also a very difficult time with hyperinflation and broad economic disruption. And even though I was a foreigner, I felt the impact of that disruption acutely. One month, my salary would come in the form of a pair of boots, another month, near worthless currency. But during this difficult time, a local friend's mother took me under her wing. Galia had been a supervisor with a government entity under the old system, but when the economy opened up, she started making clothes to sell in the market. Finding inspiration and materials wherever she could get it, she slowly built her business from one sewing machine in her bedroom to a small factory. And her industriousness, creativity, and resourcefulness in the face of a huge amount of adversity was really inspiring to me. But her impact went far beyond the clothes she made or the growth of her business. Her business eventually employed many other women whose previous jobs had disappeared within the Soviet system. She also looked after her brother, son, and nephew, supporting their education, health, and basic needs. And for me, she would show up with a bag of the rarest finds just when I most needed it, a loaf of black bread, some borscht, or even a roll of toilet paper, which was never easy to find in those days. Her business was not an end in itself. It was a means to provide for those around her and help them make a better life. And it's inspiring, enterprising women like Galia, who even under the greatest adversity will find a way to create value and beauty through their business and to generate income for other women facing adversity and to support their families, their neighbors, and their communities' health, education, and well-being when the systems around them are failing. As we watch Ukraine today, we can see this resilience and industrious in the women whose businesses have been shuttered, but are preparing meals for the defense of their country, caring for the children and elderly in underground schools, hospitals, and bunkers, and making sure their communities have the information and support they need. At the Women Entrepreneurs Finance Initiative, we don't just salute such women, but we support and empower them. We were launched at the G20 summit in Hamburg, and in 4 years, WeFi has launched a wide range of activities aimed at bringing down barriers for entrepreneurs in 52 developing countries. And about 60% of our funding goes to low-income country and fragile states. We've provided training and matching grants through the Islamic Development Bank for women in war-torn Yemen, whose businesses are manufacturing, for example, PPE to deal with the pandemic. They distribute oxygen to hospitals, and they keep schools running for as many students as possible in this country, which has been under incredible strain. We've also helped to accelerate businesses of women in Honduras through the Inter-American Development Bank. Women in those countries have gone through this pandemic, but also hurricanes and economic crises. And these women are using technology to advance new solutions in the market and for their communities. And we're getting financing and training to women in countries as diverse as Papua New Guinea and the strife-ridden parts of northern Nigeria, where women are under a lot of stress because of the violence and social disruption in those locations. And like Galia, these women are really heroic entrepreneurs with the will and savvy to succeed, but they face insurmountable, sometimes obstacles, from scarce financing to policies biased against women, business circles that are closed to women, and hurdles that are all far greater for women than for men. There's a lot of data on the challenges women face around the world, but I'll just give you 3 that are really, I think, paint a good picture. Around the world, women have 3/4 of the legal rights of men when it comes to economic rights. They receive less than 5% of corporate value chain contracts and venture capital than what goes to male-led firms. And during COVID in particular, now when they need it the most, loan applications for women were rejected at twice the rate they were for men. At the same time, the evidence is clear that there's no better way investment than to support women and women entrepreneurs. For banks, women have been shown to be more prudent about taking out credit, more loyal, and more likely to purchase multiple products. Funds with gender balanced leadership generate 20% higher returns. And in turn, women investment managers are twice as likely to invest in women-led firms, which also employ more women. So we have important virtuous circles happening there. And firms with women on leadership and boards do better than firms without. So we've been focused for the last 4 years on working across the ecosystem, helping increase access to finance, access to markets, access to skills, and the enabling ecosystem in these 50 plus countries, developing countries where we work, using things like blended finance to get gender bonds off the ground, guarantees for women, helping accelerate more women through accelerators and funds, and incentivizing financial institutions to do more to reach women, not only to look at their products and services for women, but also to look at their own practices and their own internal staffing and biases that come with the territory. Through the likes of the Asian Development Bank, the International Finance Corporation, the World Bank, we address policy issues, regulatory issues, and private sector institutional challenges to reaching women. So as you can see, the work that we're doing comes from a real passion for supporting women entrepreneurs and a belief that this is extremely important. The US has been an incredibly important partner and contributor to WeFi, along with 13 other governments around the world. And we look forward to continuing to work closely with these governments to support these programs going forward. In closing, I just wanted to say to the women like Galia, who are working so hard in the face of such adversity, they inspire us to do more, and we will continue to fight to help them break down those barriers. And for those of you who are in a position to continue to support these women, we look forward to working with you and to doing more to step up what we can do to support these women around the world. With that, I will close and say thank you again to all of you, and I look forward to continuing the conversation.
Hi, it's nice to be here. Huge thank you and congrats to my good friend Mark DeCourcy and his team for pulling such an incredible group of women and people together, leaders at this critical moment for women. As Carrie mentioned, Rethink Impact is the largest venture capital fund in the country, investing in female leaders using tech to solve our world's biggest problems. We created Rethink Impact for a few reasons. So I thought I would share that with you, share what this actually means, especially for corporate leaders who have joined this meeting today, give you a couple examples and talk about the ecosystem more broadly, all within a few minutes. So we created Rethink Impact in part, as Wendy said, because 2% of venture capital funding goes to female founders. That is an astoundingly low number when you think about the fact that there is so much data that shows that on average, female-led companies exit faster, have higher returns, have higher revenue, are more capital efficient, and have higher valuation increases. And as so many of you heard over the last 2 days, there are many, many areas that women have been impacted more than men during the pandemic, and venture funding is, of course, one of them. The numbers had started to improve before the pandemic, but then got significantly worse during the pandemic, and we can talk about why that is. The second reason we started Rethink Impact, though, is because of the massive opportunity to invest in entrepreneurs that are creating solutions for our biggest problems. That's why we focus on businesses that are tackling things like mental health challenges, educational inequality, workforce training needs, environmental sustainability, and beyond. So I'll talk a little bit about the kinds of deals and companies we support, but I should first say that we're also looking to build an ecosystem. So we host office hours each month for female, non-binary, and social impact entrepreneurs. We actually started this in 2017 in response to the sexual harassment issues coming out of Silicon Valley, and as part of an effort to change the culture in our industry. My partner Heidi and I wrote an open letter to all female entrepreneurs and social entrepreneurs with diverse teams to let them know that we're here to support their businesses. So we started hosting these in July of 2017, and they were immediately booked up in all 3 of our locations around the country. We then opened them to video to other locations, which of course became even more critical during the pandemic. And we've kept them going every month since. We also are building a community among the entrepreneurs we support, one of whom you'll get to hear from in a moment. And we're finding that women are really thrilled to have support from their peers, especially when they're at the top. So beyond building and supporting an ecosystem, our main job is to invest from two funds. One is about $110 million and one is about $180 million. And we look to invest that money in for-profit companies that are US-based, female-led, typically have between $500,000 and $15 million in annual recurring revenue when we come in. They're tech businesses only. And this usually means they're raising sort of late seed to Series B funding, if you guys hear about rounds. And they're addressing major market gaps. They're trying to bring innovative solutions and improve affordability in healthcare, educational equality, sustainability, financial services sector changes. And we typically look at about 1,000 companies a year, of which we select 4 to 5 to invest in. So quick plug, if you happen to know any great companies that fit this profile, don't hesitate to reach out to us, either if you're on Twitter at Rethink Impact, I'm at Abramson Jenny, LinkedIn, through our rethinkimpact.com website. We are always happy to meet great entrepreneurs. Now, in honor of International Women's Day, which is of course coming soon, we thought it made sense to shine a light on some incredible examples of female-led companies. If you are here and you're listening and you're actually in a leadership role at a major corporation, you actually likely work with one of these three, or you will or should be soon. One is called Wealthy. It's supporting the 53 million American families with complex care situations, whether that's aging parents, special needs children, seriously ill spouses. Our friends at PwC talked a lot about the work they're doing on this front yesterday. And what Wealthy does is helps those people who are supporting these family members while trying to hold a full-time job. By leveraging Wealthy's digital care platform and care coordination team, so this is an employee benefit, 33% of the users avoid taking a leave of absence they would have taken or resigning, and 90% feel more engaged and less stressed at work. And they work with major tech companies like Facebook, Salesforce, manufacturers like Caller, healthcare institutions, and beyond. A second company in our portfolio that's helping companies in this moment and frankly helping women who are disproportionately dealing with things like caregiving and mental health is Sempre Health, which offers a solution for mental health challenges, which of course in this country affect more than 1 in 4 Americans. It's one of the top 3 health costs that employers face. Spring takes the trial and error out of mental health care and is helping people feel better faster through its precision mental health care approach. They have 2 times higher recovery rates, shorter recovery times, and significant health savings. And they're really helping what I would call the 99%, people who don't have often access to this treatment, workers at Gap, Cisco Foods, Whole Foods, and beyond. And they actually just became a company with a unicorn plus valuation, so a $2 billion valuation just a few months ago. And finally, I'm incredibly excited to talk about Sempre Health, which is supporting the nearly 1 in 3 Americans who skip or delay healthcare because of cost. And this has only gotten worse in the pandemic. Sempre Health works with the leading health plans and pharmaceutical companies to reduce the cost of co-payments for patients who refill their prescriptions on time. So by combining technology, behavioral science, and dynamic pricing, Sempre Health boosts medication adherence by up to 15%, which of course dramatically improves the health of millions of people and potentially saves hundreds of billions of dollars in avoidable medical costs. You are incredibly fortunate that you're going to get to hear how Sempre Health is doing this work from their amazing CEO, Anurati Mather, just after me today. But I would be remiss if I didn't get to say that's the kind of work that we're getting to do at Rethink Impact and get to show off a little for her since she's incredibly humble. Before I turn you over to Anurati, I just want to say that it is wonderful to be with you guys today. If you're interested in continuing the conversation on these topics of gender, impact, venture capital, or you're a corporate leader looking to bring some of these sort of forward cutting edge solutions to your employees, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I would love to share more and continue these conversations that Mark is so graceful in getting us to start once a year, but to continue them throughout the year. Thanks so much. And I turn you over to Anurati now.
Thank you so much. And thanks, Jenny, for all the kind words and the introduction. I'm very excited to be here, and it's been really incredible to hear, the speakers and the stories that have come before me. So as mentioned, I'm Anurati, co-founder and CEO of Sempre Health. We are a health technology startup that works with pharmaceutical companies and health plans to improve the affordability of life-saving medications for Americans across the country. I'll start with a little bit about Sempre. We started the company because nearly 1 in 3 Americans can't afford their medications today. For many individuals, this translates to worsening disease states, poorer health outcomes, and even greater costs down the road. And while not being able to afford critical medications is obviously bad for patients, it's also bad for health plans because they end up paying more ultimately as disease states worsen. And it's bad for the makers of these medications. There's a hit to revenue and their impact is limited. And so Sempre is really the first solution to align these stakeholders. We are a marketplace. We are matching the supply of dollars from pharmaceutical companies to the demand for affordability from health plans and patients. And especially during the pandemic, we've seen affordability grow as an issue. Many Americans lost their jobs or experienced financial hardship in an unprecedented way. And for patients who were already struggling with affording their copays, healthcare access became even more out of reach. And in this particular moment, we were especially honored to be doing what we're doing. Over the last year alone, we've saved patients millions of dollars on their diabetes, heart failure, and respiratory medications. And this has allowed them to afford other necessities. We hear things like rent, heat, gas, groceries, and childcare. As a startup CEO, I think this is the kind of impact that makes work meaningful for me. And I've been honored to have a team and a board and investors who are just as passionate about healthcare as I am, including, of course, Jenny, who just spoke. So many startups raise venture capital, I think, only to sell their product to other venture-backed companies. The same dollars keep exchanging hands within the same ecosystem, and it's sometimes hard to tell where the innovation really is. I think that's one thing that we get really excited about at Sempre. We're so excited to be applying our efforts towards a product that does more than just serving the existing system and its incumbents. Our patients are in all 50 states. We have concentrations in Michigan, Pennsylvania, Arizona. Their average age is 58. Most of the time, they're juggling an entire household's expenses in addition to the cost of their own chronic conditions. And through enrollment in our programs, our patients save on average $44 each time they pick up their prescriptions. And that leads to about 60% that they can save on their out-of-pocket costs over the course of the year. Our product works a little bit like a good driver discount. And what this means is that as patients remain adherent to their medications, the more they see their savings grow. And so on average, we see that we have a pretty significant impact on adherence. Patients pick up their prescriptions between 3 and 4 times more in a 12-month period than patients who aren't offered our program at all. And all of this translates to fewer hospitalizations, ER visits, and downstream spend. For a lot of our patients, we're the first technology solution that they've ever interacted with. And we have the privilege of accompanying them on their journeys through the healthcare system. So as an aside, I'll say we are now working on amplifying the voices of our patients and what medication affordability means to them in the media, to representatives on Capitol Hill, and to the manufacturers of their medications. And so if you think you could help us in doing that, I have to say, please reach out to me and I'd love to work with you. But really coming back to what I think was maybe the topic, which is what have I learned as a founder, having started this company over 6 years ago, over which period of time we've raised 3 rounds of capital, we've grown the team and the product, and I personally got married and became a mom. I thought that I would share a few things. So to start, I would say really investing in team. In the early days of Sempre, it was just 2 of us. We had no money. We had no support. We were trying to build something to tackle a $300 billion problem of medication non-adherence out of a small apartment in San Francisco. And I will say there's nothing worse than having a million problems and no one really to share them with. I can say 6 years later, our team has grown. It is accomplished, it is diverse. Every person who works here is just as passionate about healthcare as I am. And while working at a startup might be many kinds of stressful, even on the good days, I'd have to say we're no longer alone, and building the team has been a really immense part of that. Second, I would say get good at storytelling. Everything from sales to fundraising to leadership is about being able to paint a really compelling and genuine picture. You know, how do you get your first employee to work with you? How do you convince your first customer or your first investor to take a chance? It's not just about having a vision. It's actually about being able to communicate it in a meaningful way. And the truth is, as a business owner, the person you'll probably have to motivate the most is yourself. So it does come in handy. And then finally, just remember that no matter what you're working on, not everyone is going to get it. It's up to you to find the people that do. Not only is Sempre a healthcare company, which means we're operating in a highly regulated space and contracting with immense organizations like Fortune 100 pharma companies and the nation's most prominent health plans, which means that all of our deals take a little bit longer to close. I am also a female founder, and I do think that the bar has been a little bit higher along the way. We've had to work really hard for every dollar that we've earned and for every dollar that we've raised. We've had to show a lot more traction. We've had to tell better stories. We've had to convince more people. But truthfully, I do think that it has made us a better team. You know, we're strategic, we're smart, and ultimately we get to build the kind of company that we've always wanted to work for. And that part is really fun. So I think ultimately the thing that has been really clear is that, you know, we wouldn't be here if not for the great network of supporters and mentors and advisors and investors who have made connections and opened doors and taken chances on Sempre and myself in a way that makes me really want to pay it forward. So I'll end with, obviously, if you're an investor, someone in media, someone in healthcare who feels excited to make an impact on drug affordability and adherence in a way that's fundamentally changing the system, please do reach out to me. I think there's probably quite a bit that we can do together. But also, if you're just getting started or want someone to chat with or someone whose mistakes you probably shouldn't repeat, please reach out to me as well. I think that's a big reason to participate in and attend events like this, and I really am happy to help in whatever way I can. So thank you.
Excellent. Hi, so I wanted to thank everyone for inviting me to speak at this event. I am so excited to be here to talk about a program that is extremely important to me, and that's Comcast Rise. So what is Comcast Rise, and how did this program really come about? And to really answer this question, we have to go back 2 years and ask ourselves what was happening at the time. It was at the beginning of the pandemic. Businesses were closing all around us, and the uncertainty of whether or not some of these businesses would open was clearly an issue. And at the time, everyone had to step back. They were forced to step back and say, in this moment in time, what do we want to stand for? And for Comcast, it was advancing equity. Small businesses owned by people of color, including Hispanic and Asian Americans, were disproportionately impacted, and most extremely were Black-owned businesses. And these are the things that really led to the launch of Comcast Rise, and the initial focus being on Black-owned businesses. We were very intentional in the name of the program. RISE stands for Representation, Investment, Strength, and Empowerment. The program came about with the desire to help communities that were recovering from the pandemic, as well as social unrest. So many companies, as you all know, were donating dollars, and certainly we did as well. But we also wanted to create a very meaningful, actionable program that would allow businesses to not just recover in this moment in time, but also build wealth so that they could then help their communities and the businesses that they served. The program offers 4 key areas of support: monetary grants, marketing services, which includes things like consultations, media, creative production, also offer technology upgrades. And this is where we offer free services such as data or voice to customers for recipients for a year, plus giving them equipments like laptops, desktops, tablets, devices for their businesses. The last part of this is providing access to a platform where small businesses can come together, get tools, get coaching and mentor to help their businesses, as well as give them resources that they will need to not just recover, but eventually help their business thrive. The impacts that we are seeing so far from Comcast Rise. Today, we have positively impacted 8,000 minority and women-owned small businesses across 590 cities and 34 states. Comcast Rise, you don't have to be a customer of Comcast to be able to have access to this program. It is truly open to any minority-owned business that has a need. The types of businesses that we've supported so far really run the gamut, from restaurants, gyms, daycare centers, professional services, hairdressers, you name it. For all the winners, the impact has been so profound. We hear constant themes about Comcast Rise being a lifeline for them, especially during the depths of the pandemics. And by end of year, we plan to support an impact of 13,000 businesses. And the number is very large and we are excited about it. But the reality is it shows how massive the need is. We know this because to date, we've received over 58,000 applications from small businesses needing support. So we clearly understand there is a lot of work to do, and we hope that many other companies will continue to join us in this journey. I like to share a story about one of the small businesses that really had an impact on me. I was able to talk with an owner of a company called Mannequin Madness. And it was this lovely 60-year-old woman who talked about the fact that she runs a mannequin repair business. And as a part of that, she gets mannequins from malls and stores that have been damaged, and she brings them into her business, repairs them, and then sells them to other smaller businesses. And when the pandemic hit, she really struggled with this because she didn't have access to the companies that provided her with some of the material, and she didn't have a vehicle to sell to the other companies that she sells her goods through. And what she had to do was she worked with us on creating a spot for her business to drive awareness that her company was still there, still open, and that there was a need. She then decided, well, why can't I take this business digitally? I'd never done that before, but how can I take advantage of the spot and the traffic I'm getting to potentially drive customers into my business? So she actually created an online experience based off of some of the support that we provided to her. She now hosts sessions across the world. She's been able to not just add on to her business, but also start hiring more people. And she's actually ahead of where she was before the pandemic started. So I loved talking to her. She's just this amazing woman. And I thought the fact that she's doing mannequin repairs was also very interesting. So let's talk about what does it look like ahead for Comcast Rise. We have big plans for this program, starting with a decision to expand it beyond minority-owned business to all women-owned businesses. The data about women is staggering, as you all know. Women are amongst the groups that were also hardest impacted. In addition, similar to people of color, women have historically faced limited access to capital, debt-free funding options as well. Yet, women represent the most tremendous opportunity, and we've seen more growth in women-owned businesses over the last 2 years than ever before. You know, what we will also be doing as we look into 2022 is we're going to lean into the E of Rise, which stands for education and empowerment. We plan on working to potentially expand the program to include local events for Rise winners, for small businesses, and it'll be focused on education, access, inspiration, and recognition. We'll continue to talk to our recipients through surveys and focus groups so that we can better understand their journey. We want to understand where we can strengthen the program so that it'll have the biggest impact. After hearing about this program, I would ask that you all help drive awareness to it. Applications can be submitted on comcastrise.com for the possibility, for any possibility interested in partnering with us on this program. We'd be happy to work directly with you. One of the other things I would share, and I'm positive this is true in so many of the other presentations that have been discussed is, while I think we are making such a huge impact on small businesses, I think we all have to step back sometimes and look at the impact being a part of driving this kind of change is having on our employees too. And I can share with you, in looking at the internal teams that work on Comcast Rise at Comcast, this program has brought people together in such an amazing way. The sense of pride of being able to do something this major is just amazing. I've yet to have to ask somebody, will you work on this program with me? People just raise their hand and say they want to be a part of driving change. They want to be a part of helping their own communities. So I'll stop there and just say, I want to thank you for having me here today. The presentations I've heard already have been so impactful, and I really hope that we're able to continue to drive more opportunities for other underrepresented businesses. Thank you.